Hi, and welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Fire Chief Scott Freitag, and with me today is my good friend, Training Chief Dustin Parra. Dustin, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, absolutely. It was actually, I thought, a great idea.
Fantastic.
I'm not sure that you thought that initially, but at least we have a what I think is a good topic. And being the training chief and looking to the future of the organization, I think we have a good topic today. A couple of things I want to point out. You know, I was opening my rock store before we started this, and we're still not sponsored by Rockstar, but you know, I decided I think we need to give them a pass because, quite honestly, I don't think they know we exist, and most people don't know we exist. Our tens of viewers is about it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes 11. Usually not. No. Right? And Kathy, I did want to give a shout out to Captain Merrill's mustache. Yeah, there's something about it. It kind of reminds me of somebody from the 1970s, like a used car salesman with a gold chain and a 70s era Corvette. They weren't great.
Mm-hmm. That's harsh.
It's a little harsh, but his wife supports that position.
Yes.
It's a great firefighter mustache, though. It is. We'll have to put in a picture of him during this.
Yeah, you're going to need a picture of him to show it. I mean, if we want to look at a firefighter mustache, we look at Chief Parra.
Okay, no disagreement there.
There is no example. And just so the viewers out there and listeners who have seen Chief Parra, he shaved it this morning.
True.
And it's back.
Facts.
So, Dustin, again, thank you for being here. I was at the FORCE conference in Montana. FORCE is sponsored by the Western Fire Chiefs Association last week, and there was some fantastic training, a 2-day workshop called Struggle Well to Start, put on by a not-for-profit called Boulder Crest. We'll talk briefly about that. But then there were just some great presenters over the next couple of days. And one of the things that they talked about, they had researchers, and then they talked about this paper that we have on the table in front of us here. And it's reimagining the 21st century fire service.
Yeah. I think when you start thinking 20, 30, 50 years down the road, reading the paper, it's almost hard. It's hard to get there, right? Because you're dealing with so many different things on a daily basis. But man, when you really open that up and start to look at the 8 identifying factors that they have in there, it's mind-boggling almost.
It is. And one of the questions they posed was, are we still going to be a sustainable form of emergency service in the year 2050? And while that seems like a long way away to me, because I'm 2030, I'm looking at retirement, the reality is a lot of the folks that we would hire today, 2050 is them.
Yeah.
This CAFMA is theirs at that point. And so I think we're doing a disservice to them by not having the conversation about this, because our goal should be sustainable.
Yeah. No, I agree. What I can say, though, Chief, on a few of the things just reading it is when you talk about re-identification of the fire service, emergency services,
right?
To me, we've done that when we became CAFMA.
Sure.
Right? We became a medical authority. That was part of us rebranding. How do we keep up? I think we keep up by maintaining our culture, which is their second thing, right? So the culture of our profession, we can't let that go. But we do have to embrace the change is coming, right? So How do we keep our culture and embrace the change? Those are questions that I don't have the answers to right now.
Well, there's a couple of things with culture. And one, I know you've heard this and have probably said it, the fire service, 200 years of tradition unimpeded by progress, right?
Absolutely.
Now, not accurate for sure, but change in the fire service is typically like pulling teeth. You know, firefighters want change as long as it doesn't impact them in any way. And it was a challenge going from not wearing SCBAs to wearing SCBAs, to wearing the new type SCBAs, to the cancer preventative measures that we have in place today and that we're continuing to develop. All of those things are important, but one of the questions somebody brought up in Montana was, hey, look, what percentage of your call volume is fire-related, actual working structure fires? And there was only one person that said 40%. I can't remember where they were from, but it sounds like they have a fire problem. Wow. But the reality is we're looking 4, 5, 6%.
Yeah. Yeah. No, our data is the same. It's 5% or under. I think It does seem like it is increasing a bit, and whether that's just time of year or just trends that go up and down. I think we're unique in some ways because of the wildland component that we have.
Yes.
So that's always going to be a community risk for us to address. As far as structure fires, yes, that's under 5% of what we do, right? But we are an all hazards department that addresses technical rescue, hazardous materials, right? Vehicle accidents. I mean, everything under the sun is what we are. We're not just a fire department. So I think it's part of it is just educating the community and continuing that to educate them on everything that we do.
Well, and I think that's a big part of why Kathy's in community relations now and why we're looking at expanding even that division, because we're not doing the public education that we need to, whether it's slip, trip, and fall safety for elderly fire safety, getting into the schools, those types of things. Those are things that traditional fire departments are already doing, and we're behind in that. But as you said, for us, it seems like the number of working structure fires or working fires that we're having is increasing. And part of that could be due to aging structures. We have more people that live up here now. And then, of course, the wildland component. Someone leaves a barbecue grill cover on a barbecue and forgets to turn the barbecue off. And then that creates, now you've got a structure fire that gets into the wildland urban interface. So there are components there that we need to look at. And so a couple of things with that. One, I think on the fire side as CAFMA, because we cover such a large area and we're seeing the development, we're still going to have that need for additional fire apparatus.
Oh, absolutely. I can't agree more. With the density of our population growing, we have to have those resources. But what can we do to supplement them, right? To take care of some of those underlying calls that aren't so emergent.
Well, and I think so some of the things that we've talked about as CAFMA are the alternative response unit. Now, those aren't that foreign to some areas. Even the city of Atlanta is running ARUs. But when we look at the more densely populated areas currently around, say, 53 and 58, for example, we don't need another fire engine in that general vicinity, but a smaller, more maneuverable unit handling some of the different types of call volumes we have today, to include ever-increasing EMS calls.
Yeah.
Right? There's just not a lot of healthcare up in our area. If we can have a paramedic, an EMT in a truck, a pickup, connect someone with a teledoc and decrease the amount of pressure on the few resources we have, whether it's on the emergency side in the field or at the hospital, that's a benefit to the entire community.
Absolutely. It's a benefit. It takes the toll off the engine companies. It takes a toll off the hospital system.
Right.
I think we need to address maybe even, plugging in behavioral health at that time.
Absolutely.
Within our community. I think there's a lot of options there. Again, it takes resources. So
it does, and that takes funding, which is a challenge. Some of the other things that we're seeing is I know that Prescott Valley is trying to re-envision where it's going for the future as well. And part of that is the Glassford Hill purchase. That's a partnership between the county, the city of Prescott, and town of Prescott Valley. And to save that as more green space, more active, more hiking, biking type of opportunities, and which is all fantastic. I think you and I both love the outdoor feel of this area. Yeah. The more outdoor events that you have or places like that, the more potential there is for injury or search and rescue, hiking in for people stuck on trails. And so we know that's coming. I think we're already positioned pretty well to handle that. But we're going to see these increases as the area continues to grow. But I think we just need to rethink. The other side, I'm going to bring this up. All right? Okay. Do not blame Chief Parra or Kathy for this. I'm just going to say it. One of the questions that was brought up there that has been brought up in this state is the 24-hour shift the most appropriate shift, or is it driving the new generation of firefighters away from the fire service because it's not conducive to some of the family environment they're looking for today, spending time with their kids, being at ball games. And we see that with the 40-hour engine. And so I'm not talking about 24 going to 48. I'm talking about, is there a hybrid of 24? Is it a 24-72? Is it a 12 or a 10 and a 14? I don't know what it is, but I think as we look to revamp some of the equipment that we use, we're going to have to look at what does a hybrid look like?
Yeah. Again, it's hard to imagine the fire service not being a 24-hour shift, right? I mean, that's something other than, some East Coast departments that run legitimate 12s and 14s. It's hard for us out on the West Coast, I think, to even think about it's not a 24 or 48-hour shift, right? So I don't know what the answers are, but I think if we can start to look at some of the behavioral studies that are coming out on lack of sleep, right, sleep deprivation, those kind of things. I don't know if it would drive people towards the fire service or away. I don't know the answers because I do think we truly love our schedules, and I think that comes down to our culture.
Right.
We are a family, so you live together for 24 hours, 48 hours at a time, whatever it might be. You become a family, and I don't know that a 10-hour, 12-hour, 14-hour. I don't know what the answers are.
Yeah, I don't know. But one of the other things that is a possibility and actually a conversation that we need to have among staff in the union as we look at the ARUs, because that is in our future in the next year to 2 years, is that a 40-hour unit? Because I don't think the data shows that we need an ARU that runs 24/7.
Right.
The question is, one, are we partnering with Priority Ambulance where we provide the medic, they provide an EMT, and they're on a pickup? Is that a 40-hour schedule? Is it hey, you're going to work 10 or 12 hours on this, and then we're going to shut it down in the evening, and you're going to go be part of a crew to make a 4-person engine company at night, where statistically that's more and more of those fires are. Now that creates a challenge because, now we have to have more people to run the ARU than you would if it was a 40-hour shift. So I think there's a conversation to be had. Yeah. And if we look at, one, we've had the paramedics on the ambulances now, and we're getting good feedback. They're like, wow, I'm learning a lot. Yep. On the 40-hour engine, some of the folks on that said, well, I don't really want to come off the 40-hour engine until my kids are out of school.
Right.
And so by offering other opportunities for a different type of schedule within the fire department, are we meeting that need of the future generation and even some of the folks that are here today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to look at all the schedules and see what works. And I mean, I've been on a 40-hour from training captain to now training chief, and it took me a while to adjust, to be honest. I didn't like it at first.
Right.
You're used to just the schedule that you've been in for years. So, but once you take a hold of the schedule, I mean, now it fits my lifestyle. It's perfect. I am home on most weekends, and I get to be around my family during those occasions. So it's a change, and I think that is important to address. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't join the fire service because of those things. So it could be opportunities to hire some good folks in that want a regular schedule, I should say.
Yeah. Well, and when I went to a 40-hour schedule, my wife's response was, so you're telling me you're going to be home every night?
Yeah.
Yep. Like every night.
Yeah.
Like every night during the week. So you're going to be like expecting dinner and things to happen. I'm like, well, yeah, I'll be home every night. She's like, well, you're going to need to go somewhere. So, sometimes it goes over well. I still sleep with one eye open and have ninja-like reflexes, just in case. So culture is another one that I just want to hit on briefly, because one of the things that we talked about is, the Board of Regents. I have to say that very clearly, Board of Regents with the 3 major universities approved a grant to study attainable housing for specifically for CAFMA, and then we included Prescott Fire in that. And they did that last week, Thursday. It's just under $58,000 to spend a year for a research team to try to provide us some answers, solutions to attainable housing. One of the things I've talked about is that our culture and our organization has been built over the years based on the community, because most of the people that work here grew up in the Prescott Valley, Chino Valley area. And so they're very committed. You see them on the baseball field as coaches. You see them on the football field as coaches. You see them taking part in the schools and the churches and the Rotaries and the Lions Club. as we have to hire more people from outside the area, we get what I term commuter firefighters.
Yeah.
They commute up, they commute back down to wherever they live that's not here. And I think the culture starts to shift over time as you have more and more commuter firefighters and less connection to the culture of this community.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's some great folks that we hire, right, outside of our communities, but they're going back to their families and their community to whatever activities that they have. So we do lose out on some great outside perspective because they have a family back home.
Right.
I don't know that there's any way to get around that other than really getting back into recruiting your hometown. And we've talked about cadet academies and things like that and starting people young when they're
right.
We need to get back into the schools.
We absolutely do.
We really do. I think we're missing a big opportunity of a lot of people that maybe don't have the direction or just the understanding of what we do. And if we can educate them early through, those cadet programs, JTED, all the things that we have, I think we would bolster our recruitment internal for our community. Now, you're never going to get away from hiring a cultural fit for us.
Right. Absolutely.
If they're out of town and they're a great fit, we're going to hire them, right?
Absolutely, we will.
But I think having them, the understanding and maybe just the conversations with them up front, like maybe get involved in our community, so.
And I don't think introducing the outside perspective is bad because it helps us to see a different point of view and change and evolve. Where it gets to be a problem is where a majority of your folks live somewhere else and they no longer understand or are connected to the culture of the community that they serve. And so there's got to be an understanding of that. And I think if we can strike that balance, we can maintain that because culture is going to evolve over time, right? But the commitment to the community should remain front and center.
Yeah, absolutely. I think your internal culture has to match your community that you serve.
Right. And somebody said it, I think it was Jeff Johnson, retired fire chief, now executive director for Western Fire Chiefs. He said, we hire for heart, we train the hands.
Yeah.
And I really like the way he put that. So one of the other things on here, and I think we've been trying to do this, is robust use of data. And I have to admit to our law enforcement partners out there, they are far better at robust use of data than we are.
Facts. And I think just diving into the accreditation portion here, everything's data driven.
Yep.
So, and we can look through each one of these initiatives, all 8 of them, health and wellness, opportunities, sustainability, technology. Everything is driven through our data and the outcomes that we want.
Right.
So when we match our data to our outcomes, whether it meets the criteria or not, at least we can say, hey, this is what we're short on. And we have to let our community and our community partners know, like, we're short on this because of this, our resources. That we have to be upfront and honest. And what I'm seeing through the accreditation progress that we're doing is we're not perfect. That's for sure. We've got a lot of room to grow. We do a lot of things right, but things out of our hands we can't.
Sure.
We can't do anything about. We don't have all the resources that we need, and we know that.
Well, and even for us, because the board is looking at the budget next Monday, the 26th. There is a tax increase in there, rate increase that we've been very open about with the community. But I think we had the data to show the problem, and then we got smacked upside the head with an increase in our ISO rating, and that supports the data. You hate to get to that point, but the reality is, especially when it comes to increasing taxes, data isn't always enough. Here's the bad result because of the data. The outcome is we're increasing your taxes to increase services so that we can decrease the ISO over time, which will positively impact your property insurance rates. And that's the other thing about re-envisioning. We've been talking to Chief Abel about wildfire mitigation efforts. We have a very robust, and I would say second to none, response component on wildland. But I'd also say that we have mitigation efforts that are next to none as far as getting out and educating the community on wildfire mitigation and property cleanup. And one of the presentations at Force had to do with insurance companies, reinsurers not wanting to insure in the wild urban interface. And so the question to homeowners is, how much do you like that rose bush 5 feet from your house? Because your insurance company is going to cancel your insurance if you don't change that. But we have to get out ahead of that, and that's a change for us. So we're looking at some grant programs and still a lot of conversation to go. Sustainability, I think we've talked a lot about that. Technology, oh my God, with Jonah and his team, I think we're doing wonders with technology. Partnerships, I think we're doing really well working with Priority Ambulance, working with the City of Prescott Fire Department, partnering with Prescott Valley, and just a non-fire related thing with Prescott Valley. So we're moving in prevention to a lot more electronic submittal. And so to make it cleaner for developers, because I know that you're close friends with a lot of developers and contractors.
Yes.
One, we have a different prevention team, so come visit them. But we're looking at putting a kiosk in the town of Prescott Valley outside their development window where they go in for permits, so that the developer or the contractor can go in, submit, do everything with Prescott Valley, turn to that commuter, submit everything, including payment online to us, grab a brochure or QR code so that they know who to contact for our agency. One-stop shop. That's technology, it's partnership, it's the customer experience.
That's a big deal, and it's for the frustrated contractors or whatever else, the review, however long it takes, and making the process easier is a customer service based entity is what we should be doing, right?
Right.
And I think with the new team that you have and everything that you guys have employed, I think there's going to be a lot of changes in the next year.
Yeah, it's been very positive. Daryl and his team and Kevin and Carrie and Jim, they have been doing an outstanding job. I think a lot of these things, again, re-identification, culture, robust use of data, health and wellness, we have been focusing on that a lot. Our cancer mitigation efforts as we plan new fire trucks coming in, all the engines, ladders as clean cab, looking at the clean station concept, and then looking at our health and wellness. And that goes to the workshop that I took part in over the weekend in Montana. It's called Struggle Well, and it's put on by a not-for-profit called Boulder Crest, very similar to Mighty Oaks, and that started by a veteran to deal with veteran issues, expanded. They have places around the country. One of the things I see with Boulder Crest and Struggle Well is a focus on what they term, and it was a term founded in the mid-1990s by a couple of PhDs doing some research into some things, because it's a very technical term. But they came up with the term post-traumatic growth, which is different than post-traumatic stress disorder or post-traumatic stress, right?
Right.
To me, the program fills that piece of the puzzle that we've been missing. I think that we've been missing, which is the more proactive. So while they talk about post-traumatic growth, I think a lot of the things that they work on, the platform they work from, there's a lot of pre-traumatic growth in that. They see hope as trainable. Struggle is a good thing because it makes you stronger, but you have to have the right mindset to understand where that's going. They've created a triangle like the fire triangle used to be. It's mind, body, and then finances for the corners. The middle is spirit. And all of that is also tied back to family. It's all in there. And if any of that is falling short, or there's areas where there's significant issues in your life, that takes away your ability to be durable or resilient or understand that, hey, you know what, the struggle is short term. I can get through this. But if you can build that stronger family, that's where you're going to gain that foundation that you need to make it through the other things in your life and in your career. So,
yeah. No, I think all that's really powerful. When I was reading through this and it was talking about the health and wellness threats, they talked about the assuring a process to track the physical and traumatic event exposures of all employees over a long period of time. The data obviously will be there, maybe not this year or next year, but within 5 years, we'll have a lot of that data if we start tracking these things.
Yes.
And I know that was something we had brought up, a few months.
Last summer.
Yeah, last summer. How do we implement that, right? How do we get that into our department? Right.
So. And part of that is just we have good ideas, we find good things, but we need more people to help us implement them. We just don't have them. So it's not that we're not doing it. Mm-hmm. It's just taking longer than we'd like. Yeah. The same thing with reimagining, looking forward at the leadership programs that we want to develop internally. Yeah. I want to take this document and as part of a leadership program, assign teams and say, okay, here's your topic. Yeah. Give us 3 examples. What does this mean to you internally? These are internal leadership programs. Yeah. So, the other one, sustainability, technology, inclusiveness. We've talked about that. I think our community is becoming more diverse and we're becoming more inclusive. I don't really see that as a problem in our agency. I don't think inclusiveness is an issue. People are pretty well accepted in our culture. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter who you are, what sex you are, what color you are. Our folks are pretty accepting of everyone. They're just nice people.
Yeah, I agree. And that's our culture, right? We're a value-based organization. We're not going to judge someone on any of those issues. So again, we're not the most diverse department. That's obvious, and it's right. Because of our community, right? So the community we live in, but we are accepting of everybody that comes into our department.
Right. So. I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy about here is that acceptance of folks. And so with that, I know we've gone way over the time limit that Kathy gives us, and I kind of figured we would, so I didn't ask her before we started. But in my defense, we did have to poke fun at Captain Merrill, which took some time.
At least.
And then try to recruit Rockstar in as a spot, but they don't know we exist, and so whatever. But Dustin, I really appreciate you coming in and talking to me about this. I think this has to be more of a conversation we have throughout our agency. It's got to be ongoing. We'll talk about the significant event readiness forum another time. We'll get somebody in, and we just did that this week. It was great. Turned out to be a great event. So with that, Kathy, anything to add before we close?
Just that we're accepting applications until July 5th for firefighter recruits.
That's right. Firefighter recruit applications open through July 5th. Don't forget to get your application in. We're already thinking about you by planning for the long-term sustainability so that you have a job in the future.
There you go.
Right? Mm-hmm. And not just a job, but exciting opportunities.
That's right.
That's what we provide here. Fam. And mustache. That's not right. Eric's, but, Chief Parra. So with that, Dustin, thank you for being here. Thank you all for watching, listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next week.